This is Maestro with the Dawn of War 2 Retribution Elite Modcast. Today, we have a 1v1 on Ashes of Typhon. Our first player is RiceMuncher, playing as the Force Commander, disruptive, tanky melee hero. His opponent will be BestN00b, playing as the Chaos Lord, also a tanky melee hero, this one able to walk through cover and ignore suppression. Alright, so then, the players we've got here, we've got BestN00b, who, as far as I know right now, is one of the best players in Dawn of War 2. I believe he is either first or second on the Elite Mod 1v1 ladder. And, you know, what a world we live in where a noob can become the best. He's still a noob, but he is the best noob. And his opponent, RiceMuncher, I've already cast before. I believe now he's playing Space Marines, which is actually his main race to my knowledge. And he's definitely quite a good player too. So we're going to see standard, probably one of the most standard builds of all time in this game, which is going for, after your starting scout squad, getting the tactical marines, and then getting a second scout squad. Of course, always a big part of Space Marine map control, one of their strengths, with scouts just being a unit that is just useful for capping, since they aren't, especially a single scout squad, cheap to put out on the field, not necessarily needed for all engagements. A little bit of a duel between the Chaos Lord and the Force Commander, kind of one-sided, the Force Commander deciding he wants none of it. He's going to eat some of the damage from the Chaos Lord's Combi Bolter, which is not particularly strong, although it's just a little bit more range DPS than a lot of other melee heroes are going to put out. And RiceMuncher with the early VP lead, but at this time we are going to see the double cap go in favor of BestN00b. We do have the power farm down for BestN00b as well, 2 power generators compared to actually none for RiceMuncher, and which is interesting. But of course, one of the reasons that can happen is the fact that BestN00b actually has not gotten a third squad, which is honestly a little surprising. I would expect to see... alright, there is the Raptor purchase, which is actually pretty surprising, given that he wanted to make his third squad a tier 1.5 unit, basically a tier 1 unit that requires power to purchase, and that does take a little bit longer. Normally you might expect to concede some map control for doing that, but it doesn't look like that happened too much to BestN00b. At most, he conceded VPs at the start, but now the VPs are actually pretty even since he did end up getting the double. Meanwhile, we are seeing some upgrades on some squads already. RiceMuncher with 1 squad of shotgun scouts, and another one he's actually getting. And he's got the flame attack. So a lot of tier 1 upgrades already for RiceMuncher. Doing that also does delay the possibility of getting his 4th squad, if he even chooses to get a 4th squad. In a 1v1 game, I would say it's very typical, usually to get 4 squads in tier 1. It is, of course, possible to sometimes go 3. 3 is definitely considered on the short side, and in some rare occasions you even get more than that. You might even see 5 squads in tier 1. Both players, with only the 3 squads. And no upgrades for BestN00b, so he really chose to focus on getting out that tier 1.5 unit. He's got that Raptors jumping on the scouts. Looks like, well, they don't have Shotgun Blast ready. I might have missed if they had used it. And oh my, we do have Heretics getting low. We'll need to retreat. So Scouts looks like they got a sneaky decap on the one of the natural requisition points for BestN00b. And RiceMuncher has actually even noted up the middle victory point. At this point, I'm predicting that that RiceMuncher will actually not be going for a 4th squad in tier 1. I base this mostly on the guess on what I'm observing right now of how much he is investing power in upgrading his existing tier 1 squad, since this is actually, it was the previous one. This squad has also been upgraded to have a sergeant, and that's a curious. The shotguns are pretty understandable, since the shotguns pretty hard counter to the Heretics if they ever try to get in melee. Of course, a counter to the Chaos Raptors as well, and despite the fact that the Chaos Lord cannot be knocked down or suppressed, shotguns are actually good against him too, because those shotguns do more damage at close range, so it actually really does help to melt that Chaos Lord. And all things considered, BestN00b is making it to Tier 2 first. I feel we are seeing relatively even economies for these players. I would say RiceMuncher, if anything, has had a little bit more disruption on the natural requisition points for BestN00b. And as I say that, here is the Chaos Lord doing exactly that. He actually managed to capture one of the natural requisition points for RiceMuncher. And it is somewhat interesting to see these double scouts with both having shotguns in Tier 1 against Chaos. And again, I already have said the reasoning, and I do understand it very much, but there are times when you will see players as Space Marines not go for the shotgun scouts against Chaos. And the reason being is that even with the Bolter scouts, you can really kite things like the Heretics. You can still focus fire the Chaos Lord and kite him as well. But I think that also investing in all these upgrades has allowed also for this minor power bash with just the shotgun scouts doing a lot more DPS than they would with bolters. So I mean, so far we managed to get a generator and the power node. I wouldn't say that that's a huge amount of value out of a flame attack squad. Obviously, it's not non-existent and wouldn't have gotten the same thing without the flame attack, but it's still... this hasn't been a big power play, this flamer attack squad, and at some point I would expect that weapon to possibly be switched. I did hear Space Marines on the field, but it does sound like it's just more upgrades, and it's actually both squads of scouts have been upgraded with their sergeant as well as the shotguns. So at this point, I actually feel this could make things very hard for the Chaos Lord to actually get many things done. And my, look at how fast. All things considered, I do feel that RiceMuncher actually had the better end of disrupting the requisition points early on. I mean, we see this requisition point over here still only at plus 10, which means it's still maturing compared to that plus 30 over here. So it's only been recently decapped by RiceMuncher. And one of the things I do like also about those double shotgun scouts is that they actually will do quite well against Chaos Space Marines. So, but now, of course, the big issue is this Chaos Dreadnought, which RiceMuncher does not have any counter for it whatsoever. But this is also something where very quickly we could see a change for the Tactical Marines to a missile launcher. Since that is, wow, so started a Devastator purchase, and of course the understanding for the Devastator purchase is pretty simple. That would be going for a las cannon, and then just using that hard AV against the Dreadnought. But instead we see the Devastator purchase canceled, and now he's going for a Librarian. I feel like that more lends its way to the possibility of missile launcher on the tac squad, because we could see Veil of Time on the missile launcher tacs, makes it harder for them to be caught by the Chaos Lord or the Chaos Raptors. Almost a full power bash by Chaos at this point, so now BestN00b is having the better end of the resource disruption. Infiltrated Scouts, I think they're going to go for the... Did they just double shotgun blast? Something, yeah. Well, also a missed jump. It looks like both shotgun blasts were used at the same time. Ooh, yeah, that particular part was not very well played by RiceMuncher. Even lost two TAC models in the process. Scout models will be fine. And now we have the Librarian out on the field. Okay, actually no. Librarian, it makes even more sense now that he's going for the Devastator as well, in addition to the Librarian, because the plan actually isn't tax with Veil of Time, it's Devastators with Veil of Time, which actually makes a whole lot more sense. Since the Veil of Time ability from the Librarian will circumvent the setup time for the Devastator, and of course the Devastator, as a much squishier squad, needs that mobility against things like the Raptors and the Heretics, as well as the fact that a las cannon Devastator just does a lot more damage against a Dreadnought than a missile tac squad. So we also have a Bloodletter purchase from BestN00b. Oops, BestN00b, I mean, from BestN00b. I like the Bloodletter purchase. It was somewhat preemptive because he started queuing that up without seeing any of the new purchases from RiceMuncher. But of course, part of the thinking there is that at some point it's reasonable to assume that RiceMuncher will buy Devastators, which he did, and then the Bloodletters are a pretty hard counter to that. Someone's dying. Uh-oh, Devastator Marines just recently got out on the field and nearly died. Grenade went off, and we are just going to see another full retreat from the scouts, even one at full hit points. RiceMuncher now actually in a lot of trouble, not even having his natural power anymore. This is going to be pretty rough, actually. Things are now feeling pretty rough because the implications of that missing power farm is that at some point, although the game is certainly not over, what we can reasonably expect to happen is BestN00b getting to Tier 3 much, much faster than RiceMuncher, and even the possibility of RiceMuncher never getting to Tier 3. So the victory point control is also accordingly going back in favor of BestN00b. Not by a huge amount, but he is about to get the double cap, and in fact actually starting to threaten the triple cap, or at least the 2-0 cap. Infiltrated scouts going in again, looking for something. If anything, I feel like it's more worth it for them to just capture the power point, and that actually looks like that will be what he's going to do. I feel like I wanted to see him start that earlier so that he could finish the caps earlier and then reallocate them to actually doing something in combat. Power decap is also sniffed out. They're not even deciding to finish it, and I don't even think they have the energy for a shotgun blast. So they do... Oh, actually, never mind. Let's take a look at... Oh no, the lead model on the Devastator was killed. And I think Veil of Time has worn off. Devastator might go down here. No. Alright, Veil of Time did not wear off. It's just that you don't see the effect of it if the squad is not moving. However, the Thunderhammer Force Commander does look like it's paying off, and that is at least one of the silver linings that RiceMuncher has in his favor right now. Thunderhammer just making it very, very hard for the Raptors to be effective wherever that Force Commander is. Artificer Armor was also picked up at some point. It was actually picked up before the Thunderhammer, and the Artificer Armor is, at this point I would say it is the most standard war gear for the Force Commander in the armor slot. Your other choices being Terminator Armor or the Armor of Alacrity. So RiceMuncher now really on the back foot. Looks like we're also going to see Gate of Infinity from the Librarian. So it's very interesting, the chosen AV response from RiceMuncher, and I would say it's probably one of the harder to execute ones. Potentially also expensive. And somewhat unusual, I would even say. I mean, it's definitely a known combination. I feel like you see it less from players at lower or mid levels, and also you see it less in team games. It's definitely something, yeah. I mean, I basically feel I see it more against higher level players and in 1v1 games. I think it requires a bit more micromanagement too. So RiceMuncher at this point has lost attack squad, and this is actually really not looking good at all. BestN00b looking like the best in this game, at least. Bash the power again. RiceMuncher started a second Devastator. So again, we're seeing what I had predicted before, which is BestN00b now going into Tier 3. RiceMuncher, it's not the idea of Tier 3 is not even on the table. He's only got plus 24 power income, and he's getting a Whirlwind instead, of all things. The Whirlwind... I can't call this one a usual choice. BestN00b actually even criticizing his lack of Assault Marine pick. So some criticism on the builds. I mean, the Whirlwind at this point, it's almost, I don't even really see it as like the best choice. I feel like it's more simply what RiceMuncher can afford. And if he keeps it far back, it can disrupt the Chaos Raptors as well as the Bloodletters once they jump in. And of course it does have that Hunter-Killer Missile, which can just provide a little bit more AV for dealing with the Dreadnought. But overall, this is pretty well played by BestN00b, really showing off why he is the BestN00b. So, but these heretics are just going to bleed the longer they stay in combat against the Force Commander. They will use Doom Blast to slow him down. Oh, okay then. Now I missed that, and, you know, suddenly things looking a little bit better for RiceMuncher. Did actually manage to complete the kill against the Dreadnought. I was just zeroing in so much on the Force Commander, on those heretics, that I missed the Dreadnought go down. And suddenly RiceMuncher is marginally back into this game. It's, I don't know. Like, he's about to have a double cap, but he's now down over 200 victory points. He currently has a bigger army than BestN00b, but that's probably not going to last very long. And we're just going to see what is BestN00b going to get. He does almost have the resources for a Predator, but at this point I'm actually personally anticipating that he will not be going for the Predator. We do have the Force Commander just jumping right in to the Chaos Army. Activates Battlecry, huge disruption on the Heretics, bleeding so many, well, not so many of their models actually, but just a lot of their hit points that they have to go. Raptors jumped in, but they're jumping into double shotgun scouts. So things are starting to look up for RiceMuncher. He's starting to win fights, and he's starting to he's starting to get like compositional advantages in terms of what he has built. But we're also seeing this back cap from BestN00b to apply more of that VP pressure. RiceMuncher trying to counter that by going for a decap with the Force Commander. Force Commander, we already saw him use the Teleporter pack, but now we can actually see those upgrades. Level 3 Force Commander does decide to just retreat out of there, because if he even tries to melee against that Chaos Lord, he will ultimately lose that fight. But who's seeking death? I don't know. I feel like it's the scouts seeking death in there against all that. So Chaos Lord fully upgraded as well. Mantle of Hate, which is definitely a good as a single target ability. So that means it has always been pretty innately good against commanders, basically. Will channel Drain Life on them. And we are seeing the Icon of Khorne grants the Chaos Lord 1.5% of his maximum health for every melee attack made against the enemy. I feel like that's been changed. I could be wrong, but at least in the 2.5 years that I was absent, I don't think that the last time that I was playing this game that it was 1.5% of his maximum health. But correct me if I'm wrong here. Grenade goes down. Does damage, but just Bloodletter models are tanky enough that didn't even take a single model. Each Bloodletter having 300 hit points. So it's actually the Chaos Terminators, and I missed... I don't think... I didn't see the Chaos Terminator call in, so I didn't see if they were called in during a fight, so I don't know if RiceMuncher even knows that they're around. There is that Drain Life in effect, so I think, yeah, the Force Commander here will be fine since there wasn't really focus fire on him while that was happening, which is a little bit more ideal of what should happen. So he was able to keep the Force Commander in there. Then the Force Commander teleports in aggressively, forces off the Heretics, does decide to retreat though, again, not wanting to die to the Chaos Lord, who just does more damage. Those power melee Lightning Claws doing 100 DPS. Scouts trying to stay in here. Not only do the Scouts need to get out here, but I think the Whirlwind also really needs to back up. We do see an Aspiring Champion on the Chaos Raptors. They will jump in, but they're kind of blocking the Whirlwind a bit. No damage has actually been done on the Whirlwind, but here is a squad of Terminators from RiceMuncher as well. These Terminators right now only with... oh, that's actually quite bold. Only with Thunderhammers. So their DPS isn't quite as high, and they're not going to be doing the bonus damage that they would if they had Lightning Claws. And again, I don't even know about these Chaos... well, now he's got to know about them. But he really has to beware. Because he has burned the teleport. He does have the Librarian, however, and it looks like he's positioning the Librarian in a way that he will be able to use Gate of Infinity if it is necessary, and very soon it will be, since I don't think Teleport is back online yet. Bloodletters are in there, already meleeing them. And there is Gate of Infinity. Force Commander just walks up to this new squad of Heretics. Meanwhile, Chaos Terminators for BestN00b have used their teleport, so they are without a teleport, but they're also definitely in a winning fight against this Thunderhammer Force Commander. Double cap for RiceMuncher, so he's still in this game for now. And all things considered, RiceMuncher has actually made a pretty good recovery, considering he was at such an economic disadvantage. Probably at some point it was these generators placed on this power farm. Meanwhile, Force Commander's here all by himself, taking some fire from the Tzeentch Space Marines. Looks like Tzeentch Space Marines, yep, they are fully upgraded. Aspiring Champion, Eternal War, and the Mark of Tzeentch. So BestN00b still has the larger army. I mean, I guess if RiceMuncher really wanted to have an army that's the same size, he could just buy a devastating Marine squad right now. But there will be an engagement happening right here. Whirlwind is disrupting the Heretics in the backline. Chaos Lord is actually going to go down here. That's a big win for RiceMuncher. So I'm not quite sure what happened there. And I think BestN00b really wants to cut his losses. He uses the teleport out to try to get the Bloodletters out of there. But I think it's a slow teleport. So I think they took model losses in the process. Might have been better to just retreat them out of there and get that range damage resistance right away. Although, of course, that does open them up to the possibility of eating grenades on retreat. But we also saw in practice that that also wasn't something that they had to fear too much. So Lightning Claw Terminators, I was about to say by themselves, but that's not true. Here are the Raptors to support. And let's see how this fight goes. RiceMuncher still keeping the Thunderhammer Terminators. So they should be losing to the Lightning Claw Terminators, and absolutely they are. I'm pretty sure, oh man, this one's been so long, that's such a niche ability, I'm pretty sure that's the Bloodlust. Global ability for the Chaos Lord. Underused, but it's actually a fantastic ability. And I wish I could even remember the exact details, but I'm pretty sure the general gist of it is that it increases the melee damage of basically all of your squads, and I think the more they fight, the more the melee damage increases. And that was already a fight that I felt that with the Raptors and Chaos Terminators, that they were definitely favored to win, and especially with the Bloodlust, it was no contest, and RiceMuncher just needed to get out of there. And now I'm actually liking this choice from RiceMuncher, that he was actually able to, he just hung in there so long that he recovered economically and was able to afford a Predator. Predator is now harassing the Tzeentch Space Marines, and it definitely wins against the Tzeentch Space Marines. Force Commander does need to get out of there before he's going to risk dying from the Bloodletters. He activated Battle Cry, and then the Bloodletters do just need to retreat. But impending triple cap actually, from BestN00b at a time when RiceMuncher has so few victory points. So we're seeing Veil of Time used on these scouts just so they could get into a position to capture the point faster. And BestN00b, it does look like BestN00b lost his Havocs. And his Havocs were not they were something that came late, and they didn't necessarily have a huge impact in the time that they were around, but they were something that could have been used to deal with this Predator. Instead, we're going to see a Predator come out from BestN00b, which is a decent answer in the sense that it kind of equalizes the vehicle pressure, or at least comes close to equalizing. I say come close because the Space Marine Predator does have that option for the extra armor, whereas the Chaos Predator does not. And I also feel the Chaos Predator, to try to tip the balance of power in favor of the Chaos Predator, upgrades to the Mark of Tzeentch right in base, so that right away it's going to be contesting this Predator with a las cannon. So Chaos Predator is going to have fewer hit points, but that las cannon is just going to be so much more powerful in the head-to-head. He's already approaching. Veil of Time does not work on Predators, so now this Predator actually in a huge amount of trouble. Doesn't catch it soon enough. He doesn't have something to deal with it. I'm pretty sure, one more shot finishes the Predator, and he's trapped on it. That's it. So well played by BestN00b, a little bit possibly overextended by RiceMuncher. Also didn't have anything to snare the Chaos Predator, and I'm pretty sure that's the Bloodlust again. Bloodlust again, and yet RiceMuncher is having some small victories, but except for the fact that he's going to lose the Terminators. He does not lose the Terminators, but at least not yet. Where is the Librarian? The Librarian is over here, so we can't Gate of Infinity him. That's it. That's the end of the Terminators. And with that, I would say it's probably going to be game. If he does not kill the Terminators here, actually, he might not. He's not going to kill the Terminators. Okay, so he doesn't kill the Terminators, but I still think this is more or less game for Best Noob, because RiceMuncher is now down to just 4 units in addition to his commander. Best Noob still with a full 6. That's another unit down for RiceMuncher, and it's not like the Whirlwind even stood much of a chance there, since I feel the Whirlwind anyway was very much a stopgap unit. I think I'm using that word correctly. It was basically just more just what RiceMuncher could afford at that time that might fulfill a few roles. Meanwhile, RiceMuncher needs to reinforce his Terminators, and those are some expensive reinforcements. Meanwhile, Scouts are able to stop the Bloodletters from capturing this point, but for how long? They can deal with the Bloodletters, but they can't really deal with the Tzeentch Chaos Space Marines. Another decap, or even a full cap. So, I was going to say RiceMuncher with the triple cap, but it's actually still just a double. So he's hanging in there, but I think it's more just delaying the inevitable at this point. Scouts can't even... They used up all their energy just trying to get close infiltrated, that they were not able to use a shotgun blast to knock the Bloodletters off the point. They will start getting the decap. All things considered, RiceMuncher, despite the army size, RiceMuncher has held up the VP pressure for a while. It's just as the more this game goes on, it's just more looking like he can't fight back. And if he does, it will be the best comeback of all time. So aspiring champion heretics will be able to detect these infiltrated scouts, so that's why he kind of backs up, waits for more support. Terminators are also being chased down by the Predator. Now, aside from putting pressure on the Terminators, part of the problem with this is that it also draws RiceMuncher's attention, and now he's directing his forces to the middle, where I don't think they're really going to win anything. And the Terminators have kind of been zoned out with all the damage they took from the Predator. Are we going to see... What is this going... This is just a drop pod, I think. Unless it's more Terminators. Wow. Now, he's got 2 squads of Terminators, which isn't bad, but the problem is he needs to get something on the point. More bloodlust from the Chaos Lord. I mean, RiceMuncher, he's struggling with just trying to keep up in fighting, and at the same time, he needs to capture victory points. We're about to see the victory point capture for Best Noob in the middle, and RiceMuncher can't take this back. His Terminators are just too low health. He's going to get another decap. And this is something you see happen more in 1v1 games, where you have players who are more or less out of it in terms of just like head-to-head combat, but they just find ways to hang on in there just on victory points by playing the map control. But it looks like RiceMuncher is actually admitting defeat and saying that once the Librarian had died, that was kind of it. And that was also something when I saw that Librarian Devastator out on the field. It was also something that's very much, if the Librarian dies, then that's just a crucial part that he's missing, especially with all the upgrades that he had invested in it. So then, that'll be it for tonight. Nice high level 1v1. Hope you enjoyed it, and have a good night.